All the goth DJs and Twitch witches are hanging out on Thursday for the bad VHS rips, unblinking eyes, and fire by night. Thetans and Satans comes from an interest in the cult of Scientology, moral panics, Satanism, and how they set the tone for the extremist social media panics of today. We really earn our Weird Left Twitch badge with this show, watching the world go red light in reverse every Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/echoplexmedia. Find our full schedule at echoplexmedia.com.
At some point, we are going to have to do a whole show about how good this show sounds.
I never say this. Our theme song for the show is Model Rocket Scientist, Big Small Towns. Check them out. You just search Model Rocket Scientist and you will find them. They're easy to find. Welcome podcast listeners. Welcome live viewers. This is Downballot. We do the show live every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific till it's over. And then it's followed by Local Love. Tonight, Local Love will be hosted by Chip DeVille. Sit this one out because we have 2 guests and 3 mics. And so I figure Chip can host the show. Plus, I'm a little burned out, so give me a chance to kick back and relax, knock back a couple brews while I watch my own show from the couch here in the studio. I'm producer Dave, and you can find me damn near anywhere.
And this is the Councilman. You can find me on Twitter at @THE_Councilman. And also up on the contact page on the Echoplex Media website, where you can find all of our amazing hosts and all of our amazing cohorts. They are all fabulous people. You should follow all of us, and especially producer Dave, because he's spicy.
I'm a little too spicy lately. Been getting getting some warning messages from Twitter lately. So,
oh, very nice. And slip up into his DMs if you really have some fun stuff to say. Definitely encourage everyone.
Do not DM me. That's absolutely incorrect.
You want people slipping into your DMs?
If people really want to send me a message, they know where to send me a message, and it's not Twitter.
All right. Well. Then do not DM producer Dave for any reason, or he will bite your head off. Welcome to the show. As you know, this is Downballot. We do this every Tuesday night, 7:30 Pacific, right here on live on Twitch, and then downloading and streaming on your favorite podcatcher of choice. This is an opportunity for us to dig deep into local politics, local news, local derp, and anything that strikes our fancy that pops up on KPIX or Kron or one of our local news stations. And certainly anything you send us. So please get up in the Discord if you're not already for Echoplex Media, and drop some links into the Bay Area News channel. That will alert us to the fact that there are folks out there who care about this as much as we do. And you can also drop links that are local to you. If you do not live in the Bay Area, we try to keep this global as well as local. And if you send us enough crazy links from your neighborhood, we might actually do a whole show devoted to it. So, look out for that.
It might be a good idea for next week, actually, to take a trip somewhere else.
Possibly. I was also thinking of a little ballot box bingo, because we do have a primary election coming up, and folks have their ballots now. So they might need help from us in terms of just figuring out what the fuck they're voting for.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Well, maybe the week after we'll visit somebody's neighborhood. That'll give us a good chance to maybe scope out the scene somewhere else, too. So
that'll be good. That'll be right after Memorial Day. I think there might be some pretty nice derp from just about anywhere after Memorial Day. That chance to bring out all the fun crazies.
Is it Memorial Day that you're not supposed to wear white after, or is that Labor Day, or is that just a stupid thing that people used to say when people thought it mattered what color clothes you wore?
I was just told not to wear green after Arbor Day out of respect for the trees. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's Labor Day with the white. I never really got that. I'm not much of a fashion maven, but I also don't wear a whole lot of white on the outside. White to me is sort of like an interior color.
I have a few white tees, but then I always end up spilling a beer on them or something at a show, and then now they have a fucking weird spot on it that looks like it could be pee.
It's hard for me to get away with not wearing a white dress shirt under a suit, of course, that has a color to it, or under a jacket. So white can be hard to avoid, just like in society, right? The whites are everywhere.
Oh God.
Speaking of which, speaking of the whites, Pearl Jam. Leading off tonight, a local teen was lucky enough to get to go on stage and fucking rock with Pearl Jam at the Oakland Arena. And Terry McSweeney is going to tell us more about how this came to be.
It was an exciting night for a North Bay teenager, to say the least. He's a drummer, got to get up on stage and play with Pearl Jam at their show in Oakland. He's good. Famed grunge band played at the Oakland Arena. Pearl Jam had been performing without drummer Matt Cameron because he tested positive for COVID. So the band had other drummers come up and fill in. They also welcomed Kai Nukermans to the stage. Kai plays in a band out of Mill Valley called The Alive. He knows Eddie Vedder's daughter. Vedder is Pearl Jam's lead singer. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's a good connection there.
Yes.
Nukermans, who's a student at Tam High, sent her a video of himself playing a Pearl Jam song. Apparently he did a good job. He was in class when he found out about the gig.
It's called Mind Your Manners, and it was surreal playing with them. Insane crowd. It was kind of intimidating, all the people there. And I compared it to the shows I've played with The Alive, and it was pretty next level.
Where does he go from here?
I know.
He's already played with Pearl Jam. He practiced a song with the band before the show. He says they introduced him, and afterwards they told him he did a really great job. Kai's band is also playing at Bottle Rock later this month.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, just drop it now, right? Like, done it all. It's been Kai Nukerman. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It is definitely who you know. Absolutely. Wonder how he knows Vedder's daughter, but anyway, from school. But his band's certainly going to blow up pretty soon. That's pretty awesome. I remember REM did a whole tour without their drummer once because he had an aneurysm, something like that, and they recruited backup drummers and celebrity drummers to come and jam with them. So I wonder if Pearl Jam's going to be doing that while Matt Cameron's out. Matt Cameron's a fucking amazing drummer, by the way.
Yeah,
pretty good band for having been around for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super into Pearl Jam myself, but I just thought there was just like these few bands that all kind of sounded exactly the same.
Yeah,
we used to, what did we call it? We called it Days of the Seven Mary Stone Temple Creed Jam. That was the exactly. That was the sound that we were talking about. Those bands all sounded exactly the fucking same.
Sure.
So
and I don't know how you feel, but Nirvana didn't sound like any of them, and that was why they were especially cool. Like just because they sounded like nothing else, and that was what made them unique.
Even though their singer turned out to be a chemtrail potato, Smashing Pumpkins also didn't really sound like anything else out there.
Yeah, no, very much so. There were some very, very cool, unique bands that the Pixies are another one that popped to mind from the early 90s, so late 80s.
People were talking, Kurt Cobain, if he was alive today. I'm like, dude, if Kurt Cobain was alive today, he might be tweeting about cancel culture. So just be careful. Just be careful what you speculate on.
It was actually, he was actually getting, from what I've read a lot and I've just looked into it and whatever, done my research, but he was actually getting into country music and Western music towards the end of his life. And he was kind of headed there a little bit in that direction with the Unplugged work that they did, So I would have been really curious. I know he was also working with Michael Stipe and looking at trying to do something with REM, and that intrigues me to no end. The potential for collaborations that were lost there. So anyway, we're getting sidetracked, but cool on this dude. Great, Kai. Great for you. Hope your band succeeds at Bottle Rocket or Bottle Rock. Sorry. And The Alive apparently is his band, which of course Alive is a Pearl Jam classic. So who knows?
So let's move on into winners and losers. I don't even know or care what this next clip is about, to be perfectly honest, but I'm going to bring it up and I'm just going to say, listen, Cron 4, if you're going to steal our bit, what you need to do is at least join the Patreon at like the $5 level or something. Like if you're going to steal our bit.
Yeah, it looks like retail spending is up, so maybe those folks can spend a little more on our Patreon.
Time now to talk winners and losers on Wall Street with financial expert Rob Black joining us from the day, Rob, where it looks like across the board we're seeing some pretty positive trading, which is kind of
sweater,
nice
Rob,
considering how much stocks have been beat up here recently.
Wow.
I don't count on it sticking around for too long. On Wall Street, we call these dead cat balances. So there's a little bit of bargain hunting. I'm doing a little bargain hunting, picking up some stocks, but we haven't seen capitulation. That's when I get a call to be on Cron at the 5 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, the 7 o'clock news, the 8 o'clock news, the 9 o'clock news.
Yeah.
It's people are freaked out and scared. You see a collapse of a business. You see something dramatic happen like that. We've had 6 down weeks, the S&P 500, 7 down weeks straight in the Dow. And yet there's a study that was released that 40% of investors who sold in last year regret it. Don't do anything crazy. California gas prices hit $6 today. That's the highest.
Like that sweater. Don't do anything crazy like that sweater.
The nation. Walmart came out with their earnings, and they're kind of an interesting one because they do a lot of those rollbacks on inflation. And they kind of represent the average consumer in America, not the high-end luxury Bay Area person. And they're saying their earnings were okay. They got hit with inflation. Their outlook isn't great.
Right.
But they're saying the consumer's holding up okay. So that was kind of nice to get that news. And United Airlines said, we had a great quarter. They're saying really good things about booking trends. So the economy's fine. The retail spending's good. Walmart's okay. The Wall Street's kind of factoring worst case scenarios, and we're just not seeing those come to fruition yet.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about retail spending, because I guess the latest numbers from April show that it is actually up almost a full percentage point, despite the fact that prices have been going up. How do you read that?
Well, things cost more, so people have to spend more money on them. Therefore, the fucking number goes up.
Yes, all of these things. Yes.
Their version of winners and losers sucks.
Yeah, it's putting me to sleep. Actually, I'm starting to realize why so many people are out of the loop when it comes to wealth and wealth management, because listening to the people talk about it who know a thing or two about it is just mind numbing sometimes. But it's meant to be that way, so that only the whites get their benefits. People that have the patience and the time to sit there and decipher everything that's being said. Not like Raj Matai.
So yeah, I was definitely not impressed with their winners and losers segment. There was nothing to laugh at.
No, I mean, he didn't even get to the losers yet, and we were already like a minute and a half, 2 minutes into it, and he was just doing winners, and we all know there's no winners.
No police malfeasance.
Yeah, I mean, no poop.
No poop.
No poop on the street.
There's no poop in front of the artisan cupcake shop in their winners and losers segment.
Right, just Wall Street. Maybe there's poop on Wall Street. We don't know, but because he was not talking about that. He was just talking about the stocks and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make your dump count, do it on Wall Street.
I'd say so. Like right in front of that statue of the little girl, with the bowl, just Duke right there. That'll get on the national news. That's a national poop story right there. Telling you, you got to elevate your game. If you're trying to make a point, if you're trying to get your message out there, you got to elevate your game. You got to talk to people who are like going to the Oscars and get them to like wear something, right? With your message on it, or to say it when they get their acceptance, or they win their Oscar and their acceptance speech, right? Like shout you out. You got to go big,
right? Or like I said, just poop somewhere on Wall Street. So somebody at the Met Gala, when they're interviewed as they're going in, they're like, also shout out to Ted who took a dump on Wall Street.
What are you wearing? I'm wearing a dump that Ted took. He dumped on me, and that's my Met costume. We're meta. So
apparently there was a new report on homelessness, and it's a mixed bag.
Yes, it's called the point in time census of the unhoused across California and locally, and we're going to hear about what's going down in the Bay Area.
We have new information now about the homelessness across the Bay Area. Despite hundreds of millions of dollars spent during the pandemic to help the problem, the homeless population is growing. The data is out, and only one county saw a decrease. That county, San Francisco. NBC Bay Area's Ian Cole has more.
New data shows there are around 35,000 unhoused people across the Bay Area due to a number of factors. Advocates say the biggest issue is the lack of affordable housing, as the Bay Area also suffers from the greatest income inequality in the nation, according to the Brookings Institution. The report shows the number of homeless people compared to 3 years ago. San Francisco was the only county to drop. Mayor Breed saying, quote, "It shows we're starting to make progress." As for Santa Clara County, it saw a 3% increase and now has over 10,000 homeless people. The highest spike in Contra Costa and Alameda counties both point to the effects of the pandemic, which put many out of work. But despite that, advocates point to two positives. One, the rate of those increases was much lower than previous counts. And two, the number of people getting into shelters or housing increased in every county.
We're happy that things haven't been increasing even faster. We believe that that's largely due to a lot of prevention efforts that have been in place during the pandemic, including an eviction moratorium.
Jeff Scott is with the San Jose Housing Department.
There are several hundred more homeless people today in San Jose than there were in 2019, unfortunately. Most of those people are in shelters. Most of those people, almost all of our homeless families are sheltered.
He says moving forward, what's needed is funding for more homes, along with less red tape to build affordable housing faster, something the legislature is working on.
Right now, we have only approximately 29 low-income apartments available for every 100 households that needs a low-income apartment. So we have a severe lack of affordable housing Bay Area-wide.
Regional advocates are asking for the state to use some of the nearly $100 billion surplus to expand programs like Home Key that gives cities and counties money to buy hotels and buildings and turn them into housing. Homeless services are also offered on site. Counties are required to do this point-in-time homeless count every 2 years, but didn't last year during the pandemic. A final report for each county comes out in the summer as they strive to get the number of homeless on the streets to zero. Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
That number in Contra Costa County is super, super troubling because that's like a lot of like single family homes and stuff up there. There's no like big cities in Contra Costa County. So it's
yeah, other than Richmond, I mean, outside of that, you're right. And also, it's not maybe you've got folks who normally would be in San Francisco, but they're running out of room in San Francisco, right? And you're seeing sort of the spread of the dilemma. Yeah, it's not good news no matter how you slice it, right? I guess the good news is that we are, as a community, housing more people, but just as many people are finding themselves unhoused, as we house other folks. So it seems like a intractable problem that we can't catch up with. But I can tell you this: no matter how fast they work, you're never going to get to zero, right? Like we're in a capitalist society, so there's always going to be some level of poverty. There's always going to be some level of unhoused. It's just the way it is. But so you're not going to get to zero.
I think a good metric to have, and nobody's ever going to do this data, or if they do, it's not going to get a lot of attention. I'd like to see per county the number of people worth $10 million, and then how many homeless people are there out there for every person worth $10 million or more dollars. That'd be some real kind of brass tacks numbers on like wealth inequality in people's counties.
Yeah, and those folks tend to have the homes up in Woodside, Los Altos Hills that have 10 bedrooms and 11 bathrooms and go for $9 million and 3 acres, right, of land, and they're living up there with just them and their spouse or their or their dog. their staff or their dog, right, in this huge house, right, having people over for the weekend, in the 10 bedrooms. Meanwhile, people are living on the street, and in spaces and crafty, I might add, creating spaces for themselves, like those mini studio apartments out of like wood paneling and nothing else, and some freaking bungee cords. So I mean,
you do what you got to do.
I mean, you absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, there are programs out there to employ and to deploy unhoused folks. To give them some pay, give them a place to stay, and get them, contributing to whatever the well-being of our community. These are really mostly very smart, well-educated, very crafty people. So they could do a hell of a lot more than like clean up graffiti or pick up trash in the park, right? Like I would rather have people with lived experience with homelessness working deep embedded in like city government and county government, so that we have people who not only know what it's like firsthand, right, to be there, but also have that ingenuity and that creativity and have tapped into that and might be able to tap into that with policy. I don't know, crazy ideas, but right here on Down Ballot.
And the state sort of keeps kicking the can on the eviction bubble that's coming.
Right.
Like they, they kicked it back to July 31st.
Yeah, it's like 3 months at a time, basically. They're pushing it back.
Right. But during that time, from the end, I forget when it was, the end of March through July 31st, there's no more rental aid available. So
they extended that to, or at least the opportunity to apply for it. There's no guarantee you get it.
Right.
And you have to keep paying rent. You have to start being able to pay rent like now, right? Like you have to, it's retroactive to prior months.
So, I don't know what's going to happen here. I think I don't know. There's not a lot of numbers out there on how many people are applying, what percentage of people, get like made whole, what percentage of, like shitty landlords are going to try to evict anyway, just because that person engaged in that program. The program says you can't use that as a criteria for eviction, but it's not like a lot of people, like their lease ended and now they're on a month to month. And like, so at that month to month, all you got to do is give people 30 or 60 days, depending on how long they've been in their place anyway. And you can kind of at will evict somebody. So it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess unless something dramatic happens.
I could see something happening at the state level simply because Democrats have such a broad majority there. And this is such a fundamental kind of an issue, right? It would seem. I can see something happening at the state level. It's not so much like the federal level where you just cannot, no matter what the House does, right? I don't care if you gave Nancy Pelosi a 100-person, 200-person member majority. it's not going to solve anything because the Senate is a fucking mess and it's systemically fucked. So at the state level here, we have a little more potential because we have Democrats in just a really solid position of power. But the problem with that is that they're in a solid position of power and they don't necessarily need to go, full on progressive or as far as we would like them to go. Maybe they just play it safe and try to maintain that majority and just not fuck up. So what that would trigger would be what you already see, which is local governments, cities and counties stepping in and saying, okay, we're going to try and provide some relief to folks. If the state's not going to, if the federal government's not going to, we need to provide some protections to folks at the local level. And those are the battles that for us on Downballot are going to be really fun because they're going to happen in the public eye on YouTube, and we can go into public comment and watch and see how truly disgusting some people are. And we can see where the true colors of our elected officials are when those issues come home to roost.
There's some interesting stuff coming out of Berlin that I haven't looked into enough, but a lot of housing advocates are posting a lot about what's happening in Berlin. There's some, and I'm probably not going to get this exactly right, but there's some proposals in the city of Berlin that would basically say that after you've lived somewhere a certain amount of time, now you have some equity in your residence that you can draw on either to purchase another place or eventually you will have enough equity that the landlord has to let you buy your residence out. And those are some real interesting ideas, because I know a lot of people who've been in an apartment for a very long time, myself included, who if some amount of their rent was applied to equity and then that became like a down payment or whatever, and now your rent is a mortgage on your place, I feel like that would benefit a lot of people. And then the landlord gets bought out for the place, so they get, the place is worth a ton more than when they bought it, so they get their investment back, plus they make a profit, which
right.
like landlords are just basically hoarding housing and renting it back out to people. But it seems like those kinds of programs, and that's not the only interesting thing happening in Berlin, that's the only one that I think I remember enough of to talk about. But if people are interested in like new ideas for housing in dense cities, take a look at what's going on in Berlin, because the people of Berlin already expropriated some property from some landlords during the pandemic. So
landlords are housing providers, producer Dave, as we all have heard from many public comments and memos. And there are actually some policies coming forth in San Jose and other municipalities locally. One of them is the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, which would be a policy that allows nonprofits or the residents of a rental complex or a rental housing unit to have first right of refusal or first right of purchase if the landlord decides to sell the property. And they could buy the property, right, and then become the property owners. There's also a nonprofit called Landed, I believe they're called, that and cities have done this as well too in the past, but they assist people with down payments on their first home. Of course, the nonprofit gets a stake, like in the equity. So if the purchaser decides to sell later on, they get a percentage of it. But basically, they're making an investment in this homeowner, and the homeowner gets support with their down payment and gets into a home, and really only has to pay out if they decide to sell the home, right? Otherwise, they just keep.
That would disincentivize people from abusing the program like a flipper.
Yeah, and they keep accruing equity, and then at some point they can buy out Landed, right? And they can say, "Here's your investment back plus whatever percentage is in their contract," right? And then they have the home. So there are opportunities out there like that, and cities like San Jose have had homeowner and home buyer support programs in the past too, right? Like mini grants and things like that. So it's possible. The question is finding the money and then finding the political will to do it, and getting past these this minority of NIMBYs and conservative pricks who whine and whine about taxpayer dollars going to subsidize lazy brown people, basically is what the argument is. And it's just disgusting, and it needs to stop. And I'm not going to tell you who to vote for in any election, but always be aware of white men coming to you and saying they have the answer to solve everything, right? And they're going to fix everything and make your city clean and vibrant and safe again, right?
Be especially wary of that if you live in a very diverse place like San Jose. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. So I'm very hopeful that white male tears will not prevail in any election coming forth, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, We get pretty deep here on Down Ballot. If you haven't tuned in before, now you know. Speaking of deep, moms are freaking out across the Bay Area because milk, or at least the formulaic milk, is definitely on a massive shortage.
I talked with one new mom today who said she'd been to several drugstores and couldn't find formula. So she finally reached out to her friends and family across the nation to get them to track it down and send it to her so she could feed her baby. At pharmacies across the Bay Area, low or no supply of infant formula, leaving new moms on a frantic search.
When you go to all of the stores within a 2-hour radius and you can't find what you need and have to resort to other measures, it's really stressful.
At this CVS in Fremont, they're limiting formula to 3 canisters per family, and you have to ask employees to get the products for you from behind a counter. This afternoon, encouraging news about beefing up supply. The company at the center of the shortage, Abbott Nutrition, announcing it plans to resume production in 2 weeks if the FDA says it's okay, but added from the time Abbott restarts the site, it will take 6 to 8 weeks before product is available on the shelves. In the meantime, the FDA is working on other ways to get formula to babies.
We're taking a number of measures, including getting all the manufacturers to step up, getting the Sturgis plant up and going, but also importing or bringing to bear product that was intended for other countries.
Here at Mother's Milk Bank in San Jose, which offers donated breast milk, the formula shortage is also having an impact.
We have seen an increase in inquiries for donor human milk. I think it's mainly based on the heightened media attention to the formula shortage.
You must have a doctor's prescription in order to get donated breast milk. Not only is the demand for milk up 25%, but the number of moms wanting to donate breast milk is up too. The Milk Bank executive director also attributes that in part to the nationwide formula shortage. In Fremont, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
That's a lot of mama's milk right there.
Yeah, and it's a bad situation. Like, a lot of people are trying to blame it on the federal government, but what happened was, at least part of the problem was that this company Abbott, they had a couple bad batches of formula. Mm-hmm. Nothing like life-threatening, but certainly not something you want to feed your baby, and so they had to stop production and figure out what was going on.
Yeah. It's, I mean, just in general, this is part of a broader issue that we're dealing with, and it's certainly going to impact a lot of folks. And this is, some people say, "Oh, well, just breastfeed your baby." It's not that simple. Not every woman is capable, frankly, physically, of breastfeeding and supplying enough milk for their baby, and that's not their fault at all. It's just science and percentages. So. Definitely hope this gets resolved in some kind of short order. But in the meantime, it's, I hate to say it, but these are the kind of things that we're going to have to learn to roll with, because climate crisis and everything else that we're dealing with are just going to lead to more situations like this and shortages like this as our economy and our global economy gets disrupted. So get ready. And get ready for these shortages. Get ready for runs on your local pharmacies and your local CVS and Walgreens. If you think you see some crazy fucks outside of Walgreens right now, wait a few minutes. Just wait. It's going to get even crazier.
Yeah. Yeah. This is an issue. I don't know that much about, what kinds of things would make it so a mother couldn't breastfeed. But I can imagine outside of medical stuff, there's also just the issue of, in cities, you need 2 incomes to survive, especially if you have a little one. And so while you're at work, you're not able to breastfeed. If you have a sitter or whatever, well, your sitter generally, not a lot of wet nurses running around out there anymore. So, it's the economic stuff is definitely part of the issue here. Even if the women who can breastfeed, if they have to be at work, you generally don't bring your baby to work because it's
right.
It can be disruptive at work, and that's also a perfectly reasonable thing. Like, you can't actually bring your baby to work every day. Everybody loves your baby. We'll do baby Fridays.
Right. There actually are, though, lactation rooms required, at least in public facilities now. Every public facility is required to have a space available for women to lactate or to at least pump breast milk at some point during the day, because it's pretty much the only way you keep up, right? It's not just live, active breastfeeding. It's also just collecting it. So, public agencies are all required to have these spaces. So you can go to our county building or city hall and ask where the lactation room is and go in. There's some magazines and some things to keep you occupied while things are going on. It's pretty exciting.
So on our next story, I'm stunned that there's racism in Danville.
In the East Bay, on the other side of the hills. Are you kidding?
Yeah. On one side of the hills, it would actually surprise me a bit more. But once you get to that other side of those hills, like when people talk about the Bay Area, I'm like, well, how many sets of hills are you away from the Bay? Like right here, we're zero. We're zero hills.
Yeah,
we're zero.
Yeah, we're exactly.
We're right in the center.
We're zero. Yeah, exactly. If you have to go up and down twice, you're in Central Valley. So
right.
Be ready. Anyway, so let's learn about up and down once in Danville.
KRON 4 News at 10.
It's horrific that people could, in the wake of a tragedy, think that this is in any way furthering an agenda or a culture or an attitude that should be furthered in our country.
Now at 10, an East Bay town reacting tonight after masked demonstrators hold up white supremacist signs, what many consider. Thank you for joining us tonight on KRON 4 News at 10. I'm Pam Moore.
And I'm Ken Wayne. The signs were displayed near a busy intersection in Danville over the weekend. This coming as the nation has been reeling from the mass shooting in which a white gunman is accused of targeting and killing black people at a supermarket. KRON 4's Dan Thorne has the story from Danville.
This Saturday demonstration in Danville is stirring up outrage and disappointment. The group of masked men were standing near the intersection of Camino Tasahara and Crow Canyon Road, the same day as a mass shooting in Buffalo, New York.
My initial reaction was one of disgust but not surprise.
Veronica Benjamin is a Danville resident and co-founder of Conscious Contra Costa. The organization was formed after the police killing of Tyrell Wilson. Former Danville police officer Andrew Hall shot Wilson last year and is now in jail after he was charged with killing another black man in 2018. Benjamin says white supremacist behavior is not challenged enough in this wealthy East Bay community.
Danville is a very, very white city, and it's kind of like this last bastion of white privilege and wealth hoarding, whereas Contra Costa County has about a 9 to 10% African-American population. In Danville, that drops to 1%.
Danville's mayor denounced the demonstration on Monday, saying in part to KRON 4 News, these people were acting out hate speech. Though not a crime, this was clearly an abhorrent gesture towards people of color. Our town stands united against racism in any form and any acts that direct harm or hatred. The Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office says they responded to the demonstration, but allowed it to continue because no laws were being broken. Benjamin says she is thankful for those in the community who do stand up against these acts.
The small amount of pride I can have for my town is that there are people here who care, and I hope that they continue to stand up, show up, and put pressure on our town council, who does not seem to care as much as some of the residents.
Reporting in Danville, Dan Thorne, KRON 4 News.
Yep, just not surprising. I wasn't surprised at all to hear that Danville was like 1% black.
Yeah, I'm completely with the activist there. I'm sorry, I'm an asshole. I've already forgotten her name, but I'm completely with her. This is not at all surprising. It's frustrating and sad and just depressing, but it's not surprising in the least. And the fact that these guys are out there wearing masks, they should fucking wear masks, because it's the only way anyone would have the balls or the gunness to go out there and carry a sign like that in the first place.
Well, I also wonder too, like Danville's not like a bastion of conservatism, right? But you go over one set of hills, like we were talking about sets of hills, right?
It's there.
Right. So maybe it's some Danville residents and then people from outside of the community, like we always see in Portland, right, will come in and kind of pad the numbers. I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating that could be going on, because that's a very common thing, actually, is for people with this viewpoint to go to more liberal places. I live in a place there's not a whole lot of black people in the city I live in either, but it's not white like Danville. It's just the demographics here are different. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Asian, a lot of Latinx people here,
right.
A lot of queer people here actually in Campbell. When I was looking for where to live in the South Bay, everything pointed me here.
I'm sure Campbell's Chamber of Commerce would love to hear that, actually.
So,
no, for real.
Yeah, well, it was 10 years ago, but even my roommate Rob noticed. He's like, "There's a lot of gay guys around here." I'm like, "Rob, that guy's just dressed nice. He might not be gay."
Well, I'm thinking that this group, maybe at the core, it's white supremacy and just hatred and bigotry, and maybe they're just attracting on an adjacent level white dudes who really like wearing gym shorts and knee-high socks, and white sneakers.
It's all about the fashion, baby, the fashion.
Absolutely. So I think they're attracting a few of those folks as well to this cause, who may be just like, okay, I'm all right with the White Lives Matter sign, because these guys really know how to dress, and I feel like we have an affinity there. So let's not discount that. Fashion has a really strong peer pressure element, right, and a really strong attraction element. So
I'm wondering, was this like spontaneously organized after the news of the shooting, or was this a coincidence? I know it doesn't
Jesus
really.
Christ, I hope either one is not true.
Well, what I'm saying is like that if it was like organized really quickly when the news of the shooting happened, then these people are just like extra disgusting. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like a step beyond.
What's the phone tree for that? Like, who's responsible for the phone tree for that? Like this, hey, there's been another fucking white supremacist shooting, or another black person who's died at the hand of a white supremacist. Like, alert your flock. Let's get out and wave the signs and show our support for the white race.
Yeah,
it must be
that. I don't know.
It must be some sort of like email chain, or maybe like a Yahoo group or something.
A Facebook group.
AOL. Did AOL have groups? Facebook group. Yeah, Facebook group. That's
100% Facebook.
Yeah, you're right. It's like those. We need to do a parody of those Facebook group commercials. I think that's been dying to be made for a long time.
Oh man, if we had some money, we had some fucking money.
The one that really tugs at the heartstrings, right? With like for me at least, with the baseball fans and their daughters going to the baseball game, right? And the Yankee and the Met fan get along because they're both dads, right? And they have their kids at the ball game, even though they don't like each other's team, right? I could totally see a spoof of that when it comes to like the January 6th mob or any of these yahoos that we tend to propagate on our shows here on Echo Bucks Media. Speaking of yahoos, postal workers, God bless them. To be honest with you, I do like our personal postal worker here in our neighborhood, but in general, kind of a kooky bunch, and they got some things to say about parking in Sunnyvale.
Well, it's a story that you will only see here on NBC Bay Area. Postal workers in the South Bay say that they are willing around, literally, just to find a solution to the parking problem in that area.
Yeah, so they're not talking about their mail trucks. They're talking about their personal vehicles as they roll into work. They say it's been years, but the postal workers in Sunnyvale and their tech neighbors, they have not been able to reach a solution, and they say they are tired of paying the price for Sunnyvale's expansion. Here's NBC Bay Area's Ginger Conejero-Saab with the clear message they're trying to send.
Chris, Marcus, you can see the problem that these postal workers are facing daily behind me. There really is very little parking on these streets, and that's because of the construction and expansion that's happening around in the area. Now, the postal workers say they're tired of bearing the grunt of the city's development.
I gotta get here a half an hour, 4 or 5 minutes early just to find parking.
Charles Wilson isn't alone. He and his postal co-workers, some who travel as far as Tracy and San Francisco, have made it a part of their daily routine to look for parking up to an hour before their shift starts. But still, that isn't enough. He says there's no parking when he gets to work, and he has gotten the tickets to show for it.
I've gotten about 5, 6 tickets. I paid them all off, but it was an unnecessary financial burden on me as well as all my fellow carriers. It's not fair.
Audel Garcia says the development has been going on for years now, and they've been putting up with the parking situation. But it has gotten so bad, he's reached out to the mayor's office and the city engineer, but to no avail.
We just want to come to work, be able to park in a safe spot, and go to work and do our job.
Safety is a big issue for Martha Flores, who says she was followed while walking the long distance back to her car.
I feel unsafe, and I went back inside the office. The next day, I told management, and one of the management started laughing. He's like, wow, at your age, you still getting guys after you? I said, this is not about, it's about my safety.
The postal worker...
Oh, fire her manager.
Seriously, that's rude. Good Lord. That should not be happening.
Numerous times to local leaders to get help with this issue. The mayor's office got back to us saying, in part, the post office is a federal agency. When they leased their current site, it was determined that the city did not have jurisdiction over its use. We were not able to review their parking needs or issue any parking requirements. Now, this leaves workers with very little to no choice at all. They're hoping they can convince the city to change some of these parking rules, at least during construction, or strike up a deal with their neighbor, Google, to allow them parking options on their site. In the South Bay, Ginger Conejero-Saab, NBC Bay Area News.
Not for nothing, there's like no light rail access in Sunnyvale. None.
No, yeah, it's swag. I mean, it goes through Sunnyvale, right? But it's just not really accessible.
So I guess somewhere along that Tasman going down to Mountain View, it might hit Sunnyvale, but it's like not anywhere inside of Sunnyvale, if that makes sense.
It's around like 101, I think, is where it is. Or Moppet Field is where it goes through Sunnyvale. No, this is just, okay. So the reason I love this and I plug this could have been under Down Ballot Watch, I suppose, because it is more of a local, politics-ish story. The reason why I thought this would be plugged in under winners and losers best because there's no winners here at all. It's a perfect winners and losers story. The city is a loser because they absolutely can regulate parking and other amenities and other community impacts in the development agreement with anyone, right? Especially on a big tech project, they can absolutely mitigate things like that and ask for concessions, like, you will provide X number of parking spaces offsite at some other location, right, for these postal workers. And now, granted, that might have required USPS stepping up and the postal workers stepping up at the time the project was approved and saying, hey, we want this concession. So losers there too, because they didn't get involved at the time. And I happen to know that the guy who was interviewed, the gentleman who was interviewed, is Charles, one of the leaders of this, instigators of this movement, is a freaking troll. He's a troll on Facebook. He's constantly sending out links to videos to me and to other people I know in young political circles, and with some, I'm not going to say controversial opinions. It's just incessant, derp laden, commentary intended to just fire people up without a whole lot of thought to it. So I'm skeptical of him instigating this movement of postal workers to say that they don't have enough opportunity to park. I mean, at the end, carpool or find some other way, right? Or get involved earlier in the process, and city step up and do something to help folks, because these postal workers are been shit on pretty much throughout the pandemic. So why don't we do something nice for them?
I just kind of contrast it to when I have to pop by the local post office here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's at
the one in Hamilton.
That's the big one, but there's a lot of fucking parking there too. I'm talking about the small one over at maybe I shouldn't say, it's a little too. Oh,
true. Sorry, I didn't want to get
No. The Hamilton's fine. If I was to tell you the one right next to me, that's a little too. Maybe a little too specific. Maybe
too Pacific for the show.
But it's near it's at the end of the strip on my end of the strip.
Right.
And there's just it's basically inside of an apartment complex kind of, and there's just all this parking everywhere. And it's like those people have no problem parking there, It's never very full. And I feel like either the apartment complex and the building, the office building the post office is in, came to some kind of agreement, or I don't know, they just got lucky, right? But in this case, over in Sunnyvale basically probably doesn't want light rail, right? Because they probably think it brings in, but
they didn't want BART and we didn't want BART, right? So same reason.
Yeah, it's transit is great over on
riffraff.
Transit is great over on the west side.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is weird because it's things have shifted a little bit. When I first got to the South Bay, this west part where I live was the desirable part. And now more and more you're seeing the Sunnyvale, Cupertino, Mountain View seeming to be the more desirable part. And it's like mostly due to proximity to work, but none of those places wanted to have anything to do with like the other kind of development that goes with putting all this business in where you're at. Yeah. And so it's not the Google employees going to get squeezed out. It's the fucking your mail carrier. Yes, and it's like, well, exactly. Fuck, man. If the shit don't always roll downhill, you know?
Yep, absolutely. It's the integral missing middle, right? Teachers, postal workers, you name it, nurses, some of the most critical people in our society, right? Who we don't think about. But they make just as shit wages as anyone else, right? And they're just as mistreated as anyone else, and the costs aren't going down for them either. So, yeah, we're at a spot where it's going to really get untenable to have a functioning economy, just given the way that it breaks down. And it's partly capitalism's fault. It's also just human nature's fault too.
Well, it just seems to me like as things got more and more dense over here in my part of town, the city, even the little city I live in, like did things to address it. Like protected bike lanes everywhere. The city was excited to have light rail come here when it came here. Like, but then right next to me is Los Gatos, and light rail was supposed to go out there, and they're like, nope. But at least Los Gatos isn't building all these goddamn office complexes where 4,000 people are supposed to be working, right?
Right. Well, that's not the point anyway, right? It's supposed to be a bedroom community, and then the transit is supposed to take the people from where they live to where they work. It's just that everyone, Los Gatos, they love their Teslas, they love their SUVs, and they'd rather sit in their car for pretty much just as long as it would take, given the way that light rail's laid out to get to work, right? And spend a little money for the gas now, even to have that luxury of sitting in their car, as opposed to what we know is a much better experience, frankly, sitting on the train.
Well, but if they work in Sunnyvale, they don't even have that option.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. I mean, unless they're ready to get off the train, get on a bus, and or take a shuttle to where they work.
Oh, and the tech companies will provide shuttles from the nearest light rail station.
They will indeed. But for everyone else, the folks who work in service jobs and food service and everywhere else, they're kind of SOL. They got to figure it out. That's why you need some sort of universal pass, right? I think it's all right to have a train to bus to whatever to scooter system. Everyone needs to get where they're going, and the train can't go everywhere, right? It's a train. But I think that's why it's more important to have a universal pass or universal system that you just tag on, tag off, no matter where you are with your Clipper card, right? It can work on across all agencies and all types of transit throughout the Bay Area. I don't see how that's so hard to figure out, but it seems like everyone's got their little fiefdom, and everyone likes their fees, and everyone wants to make sure they get their money. So that's where it gets in the way.
All right. Well, who needs to get their shit together?
Well, literally, Foster City. Let's find out.
Well, ruffled feathers in Foster City, geese, lots of them, have taken over the streets. Now, the geese themselves, they aren't the problem. What they're leaving behind is. The city has a plan to kill the geese, but a San Rafael animal protection group is fighting to stop that plan. Here's NBC Bay Area's Sharon Katsuda.
They're nice to have.
We found the geese today waddling around in the sun, minding their own business. But we did see signs of what seems to be causing a stink in the neighborhood.
There's poop on the sidewalk.
That's not the only place neighbors have seen the geese droppings.
I used to swim out there quite a bit, but because of the amount of poop out there, I decided to not swim. So as of late, I've been doing more running.
So what to do with all the geese that neighbors say appear to stay year-round? The Foster City spokesperson says the city has applied for government permits to have a lethal option, but no decision has been made. The group In Defense of Animals plans to protest the lethal option at City Hall.
Adults can be killed in numerous ways. Among them can be putting them into a mobile gas unit where they're gassed to death.
Meantime, neighbors are weighing in. Several we talked to said they definitely don't want to see the geese gassed.
You don't want to hurt the geese.
In Defense of Animals says if you kill off the geese, studies show more will come back within a matter of weeks. That's why the group supports habitat modification. Change what's appealing to the geese. Instead of the wide open spaces geese like, plant bushes where they'll fear predators might be hiding. They want the council to consider options on how to coexist with their feathered friends. In Foster City, Sharon Katsuda, NBC Bay Area News.
I am not for a geese massacre.
Yeah, no geese gassing on our watch, please.
Do not massacre the fucking geese.
No need for that at all. I mean, we're the ones encroaching on their habitat. So if they're pooping on our stuff, that's their right. We're the ones that paved over their paradise. So let's be kinder to the geese. I'm totally with the Audubon Society or whoever this is that's stepping up for them. You go.
I don't know the solution. I'm just worried about the dude who was swimming in that river, like right in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Why are you swimming in that river?
I love the Chiron, John Farsich neighbor, and I wanted to say like neighbor / rogue swimmer or something. Like, what the fuck? Or extreme swimmer. I swim in the most disgustingly polluted channels on Earth, bro. And look at me. I feel great. I've only got a couple rashes today.
Right. Like I'm sure there's just way worse things to be worried about in that body of water than a little bit of geese shit,
Yes, I would hope so. But yeah, stay out of the poop water. And don't eat, don't eat the geese shit. Just, maybe let's invest in some let's get the homeless to come and pick up the geese shit.
Oh God. That sounds like almost as bad a solution as just gassing the geese.
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit.
That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit. All right. Anyway. All right. Well, moving on down ballot because, the election's coming up in June, but this isn't really about the election. This is more just local public agency derp.
So it looks like between Marin and Sonoma counties, they've installed some transit.
Yeah, because if you got to get from Marin to Sonoma to on your wine sampling tour, you might as well be taking transit to get there, right?
Actually, fucking cool. I'm with it.
Yeah, why not? I'm down. Let's hear more.
It's here for this week's Travel Tuesday, and Gianna, Smart Rail is hoping to make that trip a little easier for commuters.
Yeah, we're right in the heart of drive time now for the morning commute, so it gets busy on 101, and that is what they're hoping to help commuters with. I caught up with Smart's General Manager Eddie Cummins to talk about the upcoming schedule changes, which start next month, and I also had a chance to check in with commuters who are using the rail system as a smart way to get to the Giants games.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit about the experience when people take Smart.
The train is awesome. It's a really great ride. It's a beautiful ride. If you ride up into Marin and Sonoma County, it's just absolutely beautiful. The train is extremely smooth. It's clean. It's well lit, and it's just a great ride.
So starting in June, there will be more weekday service specifically for commute hours.
Absolutely. During our peak service hours during the morning and the PM peaks, we'll be adding additional trips in total.
Eddie
10
Cummins.
additional trips. That'll be 5 northbound, 5 southbound.
And some tweaks that Smart Train is making this time around is connectivity to go from the rail to the ferry, where today is the perfect day to sail across the bay. It's not just for commuters, but this is an easy way for anyone in Marin County to maybe go to a Giants game or into the city.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great way to travel.
The idea to take Smart to the Giants game, tell us about that.
Just thought it'd be really fun for his 13-year-old birthday.
Okay, so kind of making it an adventure.
Yeah.
And all the money you'll save on parking, I hope you got a really good birthday present.
Yeah, we did. Brand new phone, right, Sammy?
Yeah. Okay, Sammy, let's talk about this phone. First of all, happy birthday. 13?
Yeah.
Wow. What do you think about taking the train so
Wow.
far, kind of on your adventure down to the game?
It's been a pretty fun time. We've been listening to music.
And I know you promised your mom you're going to take really good care of that phone you just got for your birthday.
Yeah.
We've been totally ignoring our parents.
This dumb OtterBox case, so it's never gonna break.
Well, I promise you from years of experience with broken phones, it's a good idea. I think what's most impressive about Smart 2 is how clean and easy it is to use, to get back and forth. We've actually talked
It's clean. She said that many times now. It's clean.
That's what I tell people about light rail.
Commenting how convenient it is and how nice it is not to worry about traffic and stress and parking and everything else.
Yeah,
But is it clean?
both ways around. It's just a more relaxing way to go.
Will you do it again after this?
We'll see how the day ends.
Does it depend on a Giants win or not?
Not at all.
Well, the Giants did win that day, so that worked out well for everyone, especially that cutie who was celebrating his birthday. If you are going to take the new or find out the new schedule, it is you can head to their website. June 13th is when all of it starts. And by the way, free parking right now for smart users if you're parking at the train. So that's kind of an incentive as well.
Very convenient, which is always nice when coming into the city.
It is.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And she's got a little perv there. She's like, hey, little cutie, little 13-year-old. Had his little birthday.
Yeah, don't let the QAnon people see that news segment.
I like how she's like, oh, well, that case will be come in really handy. And he's sort of like, yeah, okay, old lady. Thank you. Thank you, old, for your comment. Okay, boomer. Well,
that transfer to the ferry is actually pretty probably appealing to a lot of people out there because the ferry is just like kind of a cool way to travel,
Oh, it's awesome. I've been on one, but not to a Giants game. That would be legit. I would really enjoy that, I think. So I'm going to have to do that once. But the thing is, there's no ferries from the South Bay to the Giants game. So I'd have to go to the North Bay
right,
and then take the ferry, which would be kind of weird. But maybe there's one from the peninsula that we can catch. I have a feeling maybe Foster City, the Escape the Goose Poop ferry.
There's poop everywhere. Get on the boat. We're evacuating.
Or the Goose Ferry. Anyway. All right. Well, moving on from trains to cars, other forms of transportation. Looks like the city of San Jose has had a longstanding policy against folks driving up and down the same stretch of road. And it looks like someone wants to not do that anymore. So we're going to learn more about it. And it's got lowriders in it, so it's awesome.
New at 6, it looks like the end of the road for a decades-old ban on cruising in San Jose. Lowriders have been banned from driving slowly around city streets for 30 years. KPIX5's Kit Doe on why the tide is now changing.
The repeal of the cruising ban has cleared a major hurdle, passing the Rules Committee unanimously. It'll now go before the full council. All it needs is 6 votes to pass.
Do you think you've got the votes to pass this through?
I do, 100%. For Raul Perales, who grew up cruising and once owned a 65 Impala Supersport, it's been a long journey from repeatedly getting pulled over by police to now 30 years later as a San Jose council member denouncing the law as racist.
This broad stroke policy made it easier to profile and discriminate against those driving a vehicle deemed as a lowrider, particularly young brown people.
Oh, no, not the music. Don't do that.
I know, right?
The civil rights movement becoming a symbol of resistance and a way to preserve Mexican-American culture. But by the early 90s, lowriding became synonymous with crime and gang activity. In 1992, the city council made cruising illegal, and cars that were documented driving past police checkpoints multiple times were ticketed. Years of lobbying by lowrider groups led up to this moment last week at the Rules Committee meeting. San Jose Police Lieutenant Stephen Donahue said the cruising ban would be useful for large events.
We're asking that the council do not take away this tool. This is a tool that we use to ensure the safety of the public. And this is something that, while right now it is not a tool that's being used very often, it is something that we do not want to lose out of our toolbox.
However, Perales says San Jose police have not issued a single cruising fine in the past 2 decades.
They really don't have the intent to actually criminalize or enforce cruising itself. And so my response was that, well, then let's take this off the books as an actual illegal act itself.
And with that, the committee voted 5-0 to advance the repeal.
Davis? Yes. Perales?
Keep it low and slow. Yes.
Many of the owners from back in the day are now grandfathers themselves, more interested in making cruising a family event. Do you feel a bit of redemption?
I do.
Oh, hey.
I'm just so
happy
to see it coming back.
Coming full circle only took 30 years. Low and slow, indeed.
Wait for it.
See, it jumps pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
He's holding on to the phone this side.
All right. This vote goes before the full council in June. Again, they need 6 votes. In San Jose, Kit Doe, KPIX5.
That was cool that he got in the car.
I thought that was. I saw a couple spots on this press conference, and I thought that was the best. Kit Doe's a pretty good reporter. He's a fun dude. So the music's a little much, but it is what it is. There was another report that was just completely off the wall that tried to equate low riding with sideshows, and some of that culture, and it's just not the same thing. But so some folks missed the mark. He also did the research. He looked back into the history of the ordinance too, so not bad, Kit Doe. Good job. But yeah, so we'll explore that more. It's always fun to have lowriders on Down Ballot.
Yeah, we should definitely keep an eye on the lowrider story. I'm for the lowriders. I'd go hang out. I don't have a lowrider myself, but I'd find out where they're maybe cruising, take some pictures of some cars.
There you go.
Share some cannabis with some of the people when they stop. Good
absolutely.
times.
Yeah. Some of these guys, they seem very chill. So, speaking of chill, let's do one more thing. Is if that's okay with you?
Yep.
So Beta Breakers is fucking back. Have you been to Beta Breakers before?
When I was a kid.
What did you think? I've never been, so I do not have the experience.
I thought it was a lot more running than I expected when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, it definitely involves some sort of movement. So let's find out more about the return of Beta Breakers in the midst of our global pandemic.
San Francisco woke up to a party of runners this morning. Beta Breakers returned for the first time since 2019.
Oh, man, what a morning. Cron 4's Camila Barco brings us the sights and sounds from the starting line all the way to the finish.
And that's a wrap on the 2022 Beta Breakers race. More than 15,000 people participated in the event and ran through the streets of San Francisco in all forms of clothing.
Look good, feel good, run fast.
The best dressed race in the Bay Area returned to the streets of San Francisco Sunday morning. Avid runners who came out to win started the Beta Breakers race near the Embarcadero, but the competition quickly turned into the one for the best costume.
That's some unicorn tights from an old Ultimate Frisbee team. Decided to put it all together with a sequined silver cape.
The 7.5-mile race also featured Superman, Power Rangers, Waldo, and Baby Yoda.
Star Trek was, let the force be with you was just around the corner, so I say, why not? Let's get into this.
The race quickly turned into a party at Hayes Valley.
I think the most exciting part of the race is the Hay Street Hill.
And it continued near the Panhandle and ended at Ocean Beach.
It's just so universe. Any and everyone can participate. You don't have to be a fast runner. You could be a walker.
For some, Sunday marked their first time participating in the event.
I figured it was a fun way to explore San Francisco.
Others, like Clark Semple, have been doing it for 30-plus years.
I started in 1973, and this is my 70th birthday.
Semple doesn't know when he'll stop running in the Beta Breakers race, but it doesn't seem like it's any time soon.
Do it till you draw.
In San Francisco, Camila Barco, Cron 4 News.
Hell yeah. I'm glad that's back.
Absolutely. He seemed like he was taking a little break in the middle too, so that's nice. You can sit and just chill and talk to the press and then just keep running. It's a very laid back race. So
yeah, there's not a lot of people actually like competing in the race. There's very few like competitive runners that it's like a lot of casual runners and people who aren't really runners who are like, how far could it be? And then they find out how far it could be and they're like, uh-oh.
Have you I've traversed the city before that way, like from coast to coast, walking. It took quite a fucking while. We stopped along the way to have meals, but it took the better part of a day just to walk across the city, at a steady pace. Definitely not some sort of running pace. Certainly walking.
Oh, I ran it me and my dad ran it when I was a kid.
Oh, the Beta Breakers for sure. No, I'm just thinking of the last time I was on shrooms in the city and we walked across.
Yeah, you got to bring your city legs.
Absolutely. It doesn't feel like much when it's happening, and then you realize, oh shit, the car's on the other side of town.
You wake up the next day. Oh God.
You have to get on the bus. Back in the day, this is before Uber and Lyft were available.
Well, and in San Francisco, getting across town on a bus actually is not that big a challenge. So
no, not at all. It's actually pretty easy. City was built at a time when public transit was still a thing, so they've actually got infrastructure there for public transit. So fabulous. We don't necessarily have that luxury here in the South Bay. Oh well, another fun, fabulous week on Down Ballot. Producer Dave, I feel like we're really hitting our stride. And hope that you agree, listener and viewer. Thank you for your viewership and your listenership. Please keep sharing with friends, because we're only as strong as the network we build. And don't forget to get your vaccinations and wear your mask and try to keep your pants on.
Yep. Down Ballot can be found on every podcatcher out there. If you happen to find a podcatcher you like and we're not on it, let us know. Make sure you join our Twitch channel, Community at Twitch. If you never use Twitch, our community is probably a pretty good place to land, because the people in the chat will be nice to you if you don't understand certain things about Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Everybody watching, listening live, hang out. Chip's going to be hosting Local Love in a little bit, and we have a brand new act. It's called Wizards. It features G. Willikers and Phil Ziggs. So I don't know what they have in store for you during Local Love. And I will either see everybody tomorrow night for the Intellectual Dollar Tree, or if after Local Love winds down and I feel like doing a little bit of the crazy, maybe I'll see everybody for the night Twitch. This is Locals by Audible Smoke Signal. Peace out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later we're all singing Queen. Let's get the fuck up on stage and rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course. Shouldn't you be inside?
I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily.
We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band.
Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just what we want and enjoy the band. So sit back, just sit back and enjoy the band. We just do what we want and enjoy what we want is to jam. So sit back, just sit back and enjoy the band. Just sit back and enjoy what we want is to jam.
Can't get enough Echoplex and want to keep the conversation going with the hosts and community when we're not live? Then join our Discord server at discord.me/Echoplex. We have text channels, voice channels, meme repositories, and a whole section of screenshots that we don't even remember where they came from. Come join the Now Space on Discord at discord.me/Echoplex.